Welcome to the Nottingham Business School Business Leaders Podcast, where business leaders tell their stories and share their insights. All our guests have a personal connection with Nottingham Business School, so listen, learn, enjoy and share.
Welcome to a very special episode of the Nottingham Business School's Business Leaders Podcast with me, Mike Sassi, on the side of a frozen mountain in a slate carving workshop overlooking spectacular Coniston Water in the heart of the English Lake District. I'm up here to meet Brendan Donnelly, who owns and runs what must be one of the most remote manufacturing companies in England. He's a fan of the Business Leaders Podcast, who wrote, asking ever so politely, why we never featured leaders who, and I'm going to quote him directly, get their hands dirty. So we took that as a challenge. And here we are now, inside the workshops of Brendan's award-winning Coniston Stonecraft, where for almost 5 decades, stonemasons have carved signs, utensils, kitchenware, all from Cumbrian slate, quarried just 10 miles away across the fells. It's an idyllic, if slightly chilly spot. But we're not here to admire the view. We've come in search of leadership insights from a very traditional manufacturer. Brendan, thank you for playing host to this episode of Nottingham Business School's Business Leaders Podcast.
It's my pleasure, Mike, and welcome to Coniston. It is a rather cold day today.
It is indeed. I can't feel my toes. So, this is a lovely spot, but, we've got 2,600 feet of Coniston Old Man towering above us, and we're looking down on the deep, deep blue of Coniston Water.
The deep grey today.
Deep grey today. The spectacular. How do you get any work done?
Well, we're not here to look at the views. It's a lovely place to work. We're very, very blessed. But we arrive here about 8 o'clock and we get down to work and we don't stop until 5 o'clock. And it's pretty much like that, whether we were working in a remote place or whether we were working in Harlow, Essex. That's what we've got to do. We've got to get stuff made.
But it's not just the weather. I'm guessing that can be harsh up here. Economics of working so remotely also difficult?
Oh, yeah, incredibly difficult up here. We have no roads. So everything all the slate that we get has to come from a variety of quarries up to 10 miles away. Most of them are about 1 mile away. So we've got to go and pick them up in an L200 four-wheel drive truck.
Because it all, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I've just come across some real sort of like rubble.
Yeah. We pick it up in what's called clog, and that's just a great big boulder of slate.
You pick up big boulders of slate, you put them on the
back of the
flatbed,
on the flatbed truck, and we bring them up here. There's no road. We drive it up a track, and luckily the L200 has ultra 4-wheel drive, so we can do that, and we can take up to about a ton up the mountain, and then George will jump on the back of the truck, and he'll rive them. He'll find the bait line, which is the line of least resistance, and then he'll rive them into bits that we can actually lift off the truck ourselves.
How often do you do that?
We do it a couple of times a fortnight, once a week maybe, a couple of times. Depends what we're working on. Sometimes we'll have to go to 3 different quarries because we need to make things out of 3 different types of slate. So we'll go to one quarry. The nearest quarry is just up the way, up on the Old Man, and that's called Brandycrag, and that produces a lovely grey slate. And then we'll go to other quarries and we'll get green slate, and we'll go to other quarries and we'll get blue-grey or blue-black slate. And it just depends what we're working on, depends what the slate masons require.
And you turn them into beautiful signs, traditionally, and numbers for people's front doors, but then kitchen utensils, lovely, did I see a wine cooler there?
Yeah.
And beautiful pieces where you incorporate glass into them and turn them to clocks and various...
We're a very traditional business in that we stick to what we know best. But since I started with the business, we've started to look at other things that we can do. So we've gone from being purely pragmatic, this is what you need to work this, so rolling pins, etc., and signs, into this is a beautiful piece of slate, so let's make something beautiful out of it. And if it's an art piece, then fine. We like to think that we make coffee table books without them being actually a book.
Wait a minute, so you mentioned rolling pins there. Did I read somewhere about your rolling pins in...
Yeah, we're in...
Is it Harrods?
Fortnum and Masons.
Fortnum and Masons.
Yeah,
Your rolling
and
pins.
they're doing very well in Fortnum and Masons, which is lovely.
So wait a minute. How do they get from the side of this mountain to Fortnum and Masons?
Well, we get them in clog form, and we put them on the corer, and we core them, and then we polish them, and then we fit handles, and then we send them off to Fortnum and Mason.
But it's the sending off, so presumably they're back on the flatbed and down at the post office?
No, back on the flatbed, and luckily we've got a local courier that will do all the worldwide couriering for us.
Good God.
So,
all from Coniston,
they
the
won't
Lake
come
District.
up. They won't come up to the works, but they'll come to the bottom of the hill. And we take them to the bottom of the hill.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, right. So let's go back to the start. So you bought the business out of administration in 2020, just days before Britain went into its first pandemic lockdown. So on reflection, brave or foolhardy?
Oh, incredibly stupid. Incredibly stupid. When you write your business plan, again, this comes back to what I was saying, why I wrote to you, because business people write business plans and they stick rigidly to business plans, and they know where they're going. And little businesses, small, medium enterprises like ours, which incidentally make up the bulk of Britain's business, they just wing it most of the time. You know, my business plan was to do certain things, and nowhere in my business plan did I write in close for 4 months due to worldwide pandemic. And almost go bankrupt in that 4 months, because although the government very kindly paid the staff, there's still loads of overheads that you've still got to pay, and people think, oh well, it's all right. He must be doing okay because his business is still there. Your business is still there, but you've got a huge new debt that wasn't in the original business plan.
So, but that must have been a very recent ultimate test of leadership.
It was, and you have to just roll your sleeves up and get on with it and do things that get you out of that position. And we did. We were very lucky. We got a new bank loan. We got a bounce back loan. We had to make sure everything was okay, and we came out of the pandemic actually with quite a big order book, because I'd been selling all through the pandemic. We came through the pandemic and said, right, let's go, let's make all these things.
And it's interesting that you point to that, because I've read stuff you've written on social media, and you've written a book about this as well, haven't you? Yeah. That above everything, leaders have to be good salespeople, able to sell themselves and their products.
I think so, yeah. I think you take sales in the broadest possible sense of the word. Leaders have to sell their ideas and their enthusiasm and their vision to their subordinates or to their colleagues. But also, you've got to be very aware, if you're in a business that relies on sales, you've got to be very aware of still keeping that bucket full, because if you let the sales go and you've got a big factory not producing anything, you will soon go out of business. And we are very, very aware. We plan all our work every single week. We know what we should be doing. We know to the pound what we should be producing. And we have a little bit of a mop-up at the end of the week. Why didn't we do that? And there's a million and one good reasons, but we try and reduce those reasons to a minimum. And so your sales is always there, always pushing you forward. A new sale, a new sale, a new sale.
It is very beautiful up here, as I've said to you, and I listen to you now, and we've been chatting for the last hour or so. You obviously absolutely love it. You're completely wedded to the place, to the product, to what you do. Is that important for a leader?
In my case, very important. I'm a Cumbrian lad. I am hefted. We have our own word for it. I am hefted.
Hefted? Is that to do with weight or something?
To these fells. No, it's like the sheep are hefted to the
I see.
fells.
Right.
I am hefted to these fells. I love it. I think that this business and this way of life is too important to let vanish. You know, it's easy for it to go, and then when it's gone, people go, "Oh, wouldn't it be nice if they did it themselves? Wouldn't it be nice if we'd made those in Britain?" But we still do it. We are one of, I think, the last 5 or 6 slate masons in England. I don't know how many there are in Wales because they have their own slate industry, and I'm hoping that it's very good in Wales. But there's not many of us in England.
Yeah.
And the concentration of it is in the Cumbrian slate fields. And part of that is because we produce such lovely, beautiful slate that you can't find anywhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Westmoreland Green and Brathay Blue-Grey, they are very, very interesting slates.
I mean, we're surrounded by pieces of it. It
Yeah.
really is beautiful. You touch upon a word that all business people are speaking of at the moment. You didn't mention the word specifically, but it feeds into it, sustainability. You're talking about Cumbrian slate, about only using slate that you pick up from a few miles down the road or across the fell.
Yeah.
So tell me about sustainability. How important is that to your business, to your leadership?
And it's important to me, and we've made it throughout. When I first took over, I asked the people here, and I said, how do you want this to work? And sustainability is important to us all. So we looked at every part of the business. So we get our electricity from the hydroelectric power station, literally 75 yards down the beck.
It's unbelievable. It's like a tiny little building on the fast flowing beck, and that keeps the lights on here, doesn't it?
And it is a small hydroelectric station. The beck is literally, it's only about 3 yards wide. That's it. But it comes from higher up the mountain. It's fed down by a tube. It goes into the turbines, and it produces electricity 24/7, 365 days a year. And there's no shortage of water around here. So that's great. But we also looked at things like how we packaged our stuff. We were packaging using bubble wrap. We now no longer buy any bubble wrap. We haven't bought bubble wrap for 4 years. We have very helpful people in the bike industry who provide us with their waste bike boxes, which are double-walled bike boxes. So they're ideal for...
Which you carted from down the road in Carlisle, as I understand it.
Cart them in the back of my van. I have a very good friend who is in the rag trade in Lancashire, and he just gives me all the seconds. So anything that's quite delicate, we wrap in rag, then we wrap in cardboard. We've even got, for clocks, we've got a supplier who gives us the waste from Malcolm Wilson's rally cars when they strip out everything from the...
Former world champion rally driver?
Former Cumbrian world champion rally driver.
Okay.
So all his rally cars, when they're preparing them, they rip out all the gubbins from the inside of the bonnet and the inside of the walls and the doors, and they replace them with this sort of black polystyrene stuff, and we get sheets of that they would just throw out into landfill. And we love it because it's fantastic for doing what we do. So we don't have any sort of problem with breakages as well, which is really good.
It's fantastic. But getting back to the slate, one of your big bugbears, you wrote to us about it, but I've seen you've written out on social media about it as well, is that you only use Cumbrian slate, that they have a tiny carbon footprint, and yet your biggest competitor is slate, which comes from the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And you had the local university here, University of Cumbria, did a piece of academic work on this to show that the footprint of the slate that comes here from China is 14 times that of the slate that you produce. And yet when it arrives here in Britain, it's a fraction of the price of your own stuff. How does that make you feel?
It's very, very difficult because it makes me feel rubbish. But equally, how do they do that? When you look at it, you say there's a catch here. In general, there's a catch. So there must be some catch there. And it's coming in, it was 438 kilograms per tonne, which is almost half a tonne for every tonne that they process. It was coming in via the Red Sea. So I suppose it's now got even more e-carbon footprint. Yeah. And everybody that you speak to is all about, let's reduce our carbon footprint. Well, let's start with things that we can manage. Mm-hmm. And the more that we take from our English quarries, the better chance we've got of battering the price down. Because English quarries, if you fill them full of people working, will produce more. Means that we'll get better pricing.
Sure. How do you use things like that in your own leadership?
I tend to just point it out to people and let them decide. Our buyers are either they have one of two reactions. They either go, it doesn't matter, the price is right, or they go, I hadn't realised that, and I will now readjust what I'm doing. And sometimes it doesn't work in my favour. They readjust and they take European slate, or they take slate from one of the other Cumbrian stonemasons. Quite frankly, if they readjust and take slate from the Cumbrian stonemasons, that's a victory as far as I'm concerned.
Sure. And but you use that made in Cumbria, that Cumbrian slate, as your USP, unique selling point.
Oh yeah. We're very, very proud of being Cumbrian. We've been here 50 years, near 48 years. 48 years, and we intend to be here for another 50 years. And we do that by being honest and transparent with people. We don't hide it. We are very, very proud, and we invite people up to come and have a look. If somebody wants to come and have a particular type of slate, come and see it. Come and have a look around our stockyards.
So, in terms of your own leadership, before Coniston Stonecraft, you had a couple of small businesses in the licensing and motor trades, pubs and garages, to you and me.
Yeah.
You've already explained how hard it is to be a successful entrepreneur. So, what is that attraction to you? Why do you go back to what's the attraction of running your own business, being your own leader?
I think in my case it's just pure pig-headedness. But there's a certain good feeling that you get when something that you think is right proves to be right. And also, if you do stuff wrong, it's right that you should take the rap for it. So you're constantly, it's like a constant moving game of chess when you're your own entrepreneur and you're trying desperately to make a business work. I see a lot of people who say that they're business turnaround agents, and they go, I've took this from 5 million to 8 million. That's not turning around a business. That's just improving a business.
Yeah. It's how do you get from the naught to the first 5 million?
Yeah, exactly. And that was part of the reason that I wrote to you, because I don't have a problem with the people that you
the great luminaries, the lords and ladies.
The lords and ladies, the OBEs, they're fantastic, fantastic people. But it's got to be a little bit different when you're already got a really good turnover. You've got staff of 100. You've got people doing your bid and call. When you're actually going to the quarry and picking up a lump of slate and appraising whether this is going to make you money or not, then that's to my mind, that's
test your leadership skills.
Yeah, test your leadership skills a bit more.
Okay, so as you know, this is a podcast for the Nottingham Business School, which is a place chock full of leaders and would-be leaders. So, in your experience, what advice, one piece of advice, might you give to them to help them in their careers?
It's a very good question. I think that you just need persistence, belief in yourself, and you need to be prepared every day to go the extra inch. Don't go the extra mile.
Right.
The extra mile is for one or two people. But go the extra inch. Just make sure that you're better than everybody else by that extra little bit. You don't need to win the race by seven furlongs. You need to win the race by a nose.
I presume that's a fell race, is it?
No, it's a horse racing term. But it's just the same in fell racing. If you just win the race, that's all you need to do. You just need to be a little bit better. And you should be looking at everything that you do all the time.
Marginal gains.
Marginal gains, yeah. Brailsford. Yeah. Marginal gains. And I think that makes the difference. And I think that's the way that a lot of people are running businesses now. They're looking at how can we just make one or two little things just a little bit better.
Brendan Donnelly, that is fantastic advice. Manufacturer, entrepreneur, business leader, on the side of a mountain, in the remotest corner of England. Thanks very, very much for being our guest for this episode of the Business Leaders Podcast.
If you enjoyed this episode, then why not check out some of the others that are also available, including those with the chair of the FA, Debbie Hewitt, England Women's Rugby World Cup winner Maggie Alfonsi, MBE, and the Vice-Chancellor of Nottingham Trent University, Professor Edward Peck, CBE. The Nottingham Business School Business Leaders Podcast is produced for Nottingham Trent University by Celtic Tiger Productions. Your presenter was Mike Sassi and your producer was John Collins.